news, the rematch of one of the greatest fights in UFC history, Jon Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson, is on.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to an all-new year. It's 2019. I am excited to be here. I can't believe, first of all, is it just me or did 2018 go by in a flash? I have never seen a year pass by as quickly as that one did, and my goodness, it was 1 year for the records, for the books. A lot of learning involved. We got to improve. We got a better understanding of everything that goes on in our lives, or at least I hope the majority of us were able to learn, get healthy, prosperous, and able to achieve all the goals that we set. I know a lot of us probably didn't achieve the majority of the goals that we set for us in the New Year's resolution, but I'm still hoping that it was a very good year, fun, exciting, and you had a good time with your friends and your family and the new people you met along the way. But as always, it's a new year, new beginning, new 3 rounds with Jay, the first one of 2019. We always hope we can do this correctly, we do this properly, we give you something exciting and something worth watching. Can't always guarantee that things go the way things go, but we do our best to make sure that you are having a good time, I'm having a good time, and everyone that's working hard on this is having a good time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, 3 rounds with Jay this week may be a bit more different than normal. This is the first one of 2019. No, there is no MMA events that will be taking place for quite some time. The last one that took place was on the 31st of December 2018, and that was Pro Fight League, which featured a combination of their tournament, or should I say their first season, where 8 competitors, 8 fighters were guaranteed $1 million in prize money and championship gold due to the fact that they won that season and now they are the champion of their organization. On top of that, Pro Fight League, we also had Ryzen. Some of you may or may not know, it was headlined by Floyd Mayweather taking on Tension. Now, maybe I'm sure a lot of you didn't hear about this fight because it was promoted as a 3-round or 4-round exhibition. Regardless of that exhibition, the rest of this event, the rest of these cards were fantastic. Ryzen won on 2018, December the 31st. If you are a fan of the Pride Fighting Championship days, this is the way to go. This is some old school classic fighting. If you're a fan of the modern day mixed martial arts world, as in the UFC style and Bellator, Pro Fight League put on an exceptionally very good card that took place in Madison Square Garden on the 31st of December. Also, who would have thought that December 31st would have been stacked with mixed martial arts events? You would have thought people would have been out there celebrating with friends and family, but no. A lot decided to tune in and just enjoy themselves, have themselves a good time. At the end of the day, New Year's is about how you decide to spend it. It doesn't mean this is the way the rest of the year is going to be. It's just a matter of where you are and what you want to do. And that's it. At the end, it's only a matter of what you want to do. Look, with all of this aside, New Year's, new this, new that, we're going to get right to the point of 3 rounds with Jay, and we're going to head right into the first round where I'm going to discuss what took place on December the 29th, 2018, live from the Forum in Inglewood, California. I'm pretty much talking about UFC 232, Jon Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson, number 2 for the vacant UFC Light Heavyweight Championship of the world. We also featured the Featherweight Championship of the world, I'm talking about the women's division, Christine Justino Cyborg taking on the Bantamweight Champion of the world, Amanda Nunes, for the Featherweight Championship. This was probably one of the most stacked end-of-the-year cards that you will see, and we will break that down in the very first round. So let's get straight to that. Round number 1. Round 1, let's go. So UFC 232, what was all the hype about? What was all the fuss about? To be quite honest, all the fuss and the hype was surrounding Jon Jones and then another failed drug test. That's really what this event was mostly featured on, when the attention should have been solely focused on the fact that Amanda Nunes was challenging to be the first ever female fighter to hold 2 belts in 2 different separate weight divisions, holding the 135-pound Bantamweight Championship title and having the opportunity to hold the 145-pound championship belt, and therefore he would require her to defeat Chris Cyborg. You see, all the attention should have been on the fact that Amanda Nunes, a female fighter who retired the likes of Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey, defeated also the likes of Valentina Shevchenko, and some of the most top fighters in her division. This girl has been on a tear. She's on the who's who, so this is where the focus should have been on on the fact that Amanda Nunes is someone not to be slept on, and the fact that Chris Justine Cyborg has been undefeated within the last 6 to 10 years and was riding a record of 21-1-1. This is where the focus should have been on. This should have been the attention. But no. As you all know, as you all have heard, the focus and attention was put on the fact that Jon Jones failed another drug test, and here we were. And the fact that he failed another drug test required the UFC to move an entire event from Las Vegas, Nevada, all the way to Los Angeles, California, which in all honesty is completely unheard of and never before seen. First time ever stuff right here, folks. But with all of that being put aside, all of this nonsense, all of this hoopla and this gibberish, what we ended up getting was a product and living proof as to why the UFC is the elite organization in the world at this time, right? Mixed martial arts is growing. It's growing fast. There's multiple organizations that exist. PFL had an event, like I said, yesterday. Ryzen had an event, like I said, also yesterday. And one, I believe, that's going on tonight or earlier this morning that is taking place. I may have missed it, to be honest. You've got Bellator that are on the verge of exploding. You got one championship which is signing these big guys. But UFC yesterday, with their stacked event of UFC 232, they gave us names from the likes of a BJ Penn to Carlos Condit to Michael Chiesa to Chris Cyborg to Amanda Nunes to Jon Jones to Alexander Gustafsson, and that's just some of the people that were facing one another on the main card. And I'm not even telling you the up-and-comers, such as Megan Anderson, Kat Zingano, Andrei Arlovski, Walt Harris, the name Chad Mendes, Alexander Volkanovski. There was just so many people on this card, and that is what makes the UFC the UFC, is the fact that they're able to put together, when they can, these great, fantastic matchups that are evenly matched with guys that are within the same ranking system, and enough fights where we're fighting a guy who's probably should be retired but is still fighting. Now, I know I say that after I said BJ Penn, but BJ Penn was taking on the likes of a guy who is not your normal finisher killer or someone that you should be concerned about. And I'm not saying that to downgrade his opponent, but BJ Penn was coming on and taking on a guy that he most likely had the best chance of winning in this fight. Unfortunately, it didn't go down that way. He was submitted with a fantastic and beautiful heel hook by Ryan Hall, something that we have yet to see. Something that Ryan Hall is actually quite a specialist, but we've never actually seen BJ Penn tap out in that fashion, where it was so swift, so quick, and so nice at the end of the day. Megan Anderson picked up a huge victory with a head kick. Kat Zingano was unable to continue. She ended up getting poked in the eye by Megan's toe as she threw the kick. Look, this stuff happens in the fight, but Megan picks up the victory by TKO. On this card, Andrei Arlovski lost a split decision to Walt Harris in a fight that no one will ever be talking about because it was completely garbage. Chad Mendes and Alexander Volkanovski, whatever his name is that I'm butchering, put on a hell of a fight, probably fight of the night performance. Alexander looked fantastic, and hell, he ended up retiring Chad Mendes, who right after the fight decided that he was going to give it up. He could no longer compete with the elite of the division. Alexander looked great in this fight, and I can't wait to see him continue moving up. The rest of this card also featured Carlos Condit taking on Michael Chiesa. This was a do-or-die fight for Carlos Condit, and I said this going in, even though my biased pick was Carlos Condit because I was a huge fan and felt that he should pick up the victory. He unfortunately did not and suffered a submission loss to Michael Chiesa within the second round. Hey, look, it's sad to see Carlos Condit lose. It's sad to see Carlos Condit put in a position where he is now probably going to be let go. He's lost 5 straight fights against some of the top contenders. He's always an exciting fighter to see, but he has lost each fight almost the same way, having been taken to the ground and submitted. It's reached a point at this time where, look, Carlos, you're going to have to move on with your career. I just don't see the UFC keeping him and paying him the amount that he continues to make per fight. He is always an exciting fighter, like I said. He is a name, but in order to pay a fighter, you want to pay them to win. You don't want to pay them to come in and to suffer the defeats that he's been suffering. So we'll see where he goes from here, but I truly do believe he will be on his way out. He may be cut by the UFC and find a home in one of the major players that are out there. Someone will pick him up. He is a name, and he is always exciting, and I have no doubt that he could do very well outside of the UFC. Your co-main event, my goodness, what a fight. It was Chris Cyborg defending her featherweight championship of the world against what was supposed to be her toughest test to date in Amanda the Lioness Nunes. This fight lasted a grand total of about 53 seconds, and Amanda Nunes completely annihilated Chris Cyborg. There is no words or even expression that I could put to explain to you watching what I saw, or for the people that watched this fight, or how to even explain to you how in shock we completely were. We were not writing off Amanda Nunes. We thought that she was going to be the toughest test, but we did not think she was going to do what she did to Cyborg as quickly as she did to Cyborg, and in the fashion she did to Cyborg. She put her down and she put her out, something that Cyborg has never ever felt before in her life. Now you may argue the fact that Chris Cyborg did come out over aggressive. Cyborg tends to do that when she's fighting a girl where she feels she is just going to go through them with ease. Now, this may have been the scenario coming into this fight, and I'm not taking away from Amanda Nunes' victory because now she truly is the pound-for-pound best female fighter in the world. She's defeated all of the top-tier fighters. Like I said, Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey, now Chris Cyborg, Holly Holm, Valentina Shevchenko. These are some of the people she's beat, and this is something to be concerned about. Who is going to put this girl in her place? I know we said that for Chris Cyborg, but we'll have to see what comes next. Chris Cyborg has one more fight on her contract. Whether or not she gets a rematch with Amanda Nunes will be seen. I do believe she deserves a rematch. Listen, this girl's been undefeated. I know Dana White says we saw the result we needed to see, so she doesn't deserve a rematch. I think that's complete fucking baloney. He's probably just saying that due to the fact that she has one fight left on her contract and you don't want to offer her the title fight right away. So we'll see what happens next. I do believe that Cyborg gets back on that horse, comes back, and shows exactly who she is as a fighter. This was not to say a fluke victory, but it was a mistake on her part that she made for not being as prepared or having the right game plan like she should have had. She should have came out there and waited and picked her spot and threw the big shots. Instead, she came right out and was looking to land, which therefore proved the point that Nunes is just faster when it comes to striking, and that's what put her to sleep. Your main event featured Jon Jones taking on Alexander Gustafsson. The returning Jon Jones was looking to put an end to all of this drug test, drug conversation, he's a cheater, this and that. And look, it's not hard to understand why people are considering him a cheater. Look, he's failed 2 drug tests and a third one for having a little bit in his system still from apparently the year before, which is kind of ludicrous when you think about it. But he put on a classic Jon Jones performance. Alexander Gustafsson was trying to get things off in the early going, but you could tell with those inside low kicks that he was going to have himself a long night. He was not able to get the footing down, the timing correct. Once the low kicks started coming in, you saw Gus was a bit slower and hesitant in throwing his punches. And when it came to the third round, John had Gustafsson's leg exactly where he needed to be, took him to the ground, and finished it by submission. Therefore making him once again the undisputed and official light heavyweight champion of the world. Where Jon Jones goes from here is a question of whether DC wants to fight him a third time or not. I don't think this fight should happen a third time. DC's gone on to prove his point and to prove how superior he is of a fighter between the two. I think at this point it would just be to sell a fight because Jon Jones apparently has no other contenders in his division. I beg to differ, and I think there are some people that Jon Jones should compete against before he fights Daniel Cormier. Have Daniel Cormier fight somebody at this point other than Jon Jones. He could fight almost anyone in the heavyweight division. We know he's waiting for Brock Lesnar or whatever Brock Lesnar is doing. So we'll see what happens next. Now that was your UFC 232 a recap. We will head straight into round number 2 where I will be discussing what I believe may be next for most of these fighters on the UFC 232 card.